Overwatch 2 is around the corner, and Symmetra is still lacking meaningful changes. To support the #Rework Symmetra movement, I decided to make one last Symmetra rework concept. For this concept, Symmetra will be a healer in the support role. In fact, this whole concept is a modified version of my Healer Sim V2 concept, which was made in regards to Overwatch 1 and 6v6. Feel free to check that one out if you want to compare. Like my previous rework concepts, I will talk about the stats first and then give my reasons behind them afterwards. Keep in mind that with all concepts, numbers can be changed. It's the principle that matters. Symmetra's primary fire will be a revert to its 2.0 autolock version, with a few tweaks. The damage will be 25 DPS on level 1, 50 DPS on level 2, and 100 DPS on level 3. However, the range will be up to 12 meters to match the current Sim 3.0s. The ramp up and downtime will be lowered to 2.0's 1 second. Symmetra's secondary fire will be the current zippy orb she has in the second Overwatch 2 beta. These orbs take 1 second to charge and move at 50 meters a second. The only difference for this concept is that the damage of the orbs will be lowered a little bit, going from 90 to 80 damage. Next is Symmetra's new 2-part passive. The first part of the passive is Photon Shields. This will convert 25% of your allies' white HP into shields. The second and more active part of the passive is Hardlight Distribution. All of Symmetra's allies are healed for 25% of the damage that she deals. Symmetra's first ability is the return of 2.0's Photon Barrier. For those who don't know or remember, when cast, Symmetra would spawn a barrier that would constantly move forward at walking speed. For this concept, Symmetra will have the option of holding the ability button at any point to increase the barrier's move speed by 25%. Symmetra can toggle the speed bonus on or off at any time as long as the barrier is active. This Photon Barrier will host 500 HP and have a 10-second cooldown. Symmetra's second ability are the Sentry Turrets. Like my initial Healer Sim V2 concept, Sim will have two versions of the turrets, healing and damage, that can be selected akin to a Moira orb. Symmetra can have two of each turret type up at once, and the separate turret types host different cooldowns. Damage turrets will have their damage lowered a little bit, going from 40 DPS to 30 DPS. However, their slow will be bumped up from the beta's measly 15% to 25%. These turrets will retain their 10-second cooldown. The healing turrets will target the lowest health ally in range and heal them for 30 health a second for 3 seconds. Afterwards, the turrets incur a small 0.5-second cooldown before healing the next target. These turrets would have a slightly longer beam range at 12 meters. They would host an 8-second cooldown, and they would build a little faster over the damage turrets, only taking 0.5 seconds to build. Last up, the ultimate Photon Field is a merger of the current Photon Barrier ultimate and the old Shield Generator ultimate. When cast, Symmetra would spawn the Massive Shield, while also granting her and her allies 50 shield health for the 12-second duration. The barrier's health pool would be lowered to compensate, going from 4,000 to 2,500. The bonus 50 HP will last a full 12 seconds, even if the barrier is destroyed prior. As you know with my rework concepts for both Overwatch and Paladins, I try my best not to delete a character that many have fallen in love with. This is why my overall goal with this version of Symmetra was to create a fun off-support who plays as a hybrid between 2.0 and 3.0. Now let's get into my reasonings behind these abilities. Starting with the primary fire. First off is my decision to not attach healing capabilities to it. I for one am not a fan of concepts that add healing to the Photon Projector. Personal opinion here, but heal bots are boring. Holding one button on your overextending tank the whole game is a snooze fest. As for the projector I'm opting for, my viewers all know this, but I hate the discount Zarya beam. I opted for the return of the Noodle Beam, to open Symmetra back up as a character for players with lackluster aim, like myself. Also, due to the new passive converting damage into healing, having a consistent primary fire is a must. Speaking of consistency, I opted to have the projector match 3.0's range of 12 meters, so this way Symmetra players won't have to adjust their positioning too much. To compensate for this, I lowered the beam's damage from 2.0's 30-60-120 to 25-50-100. The lower damage also aids in reducing the frustration when fighting an enemy Symmetra. I was tempted to give Symmetra a mock flamethrower type weapon, but I didn't want her to overlap with Mei. Second, the secondary. Might be a hot take, but I think the new orbs in the beta would be perfect for a support weapon. The faster orbs comboed with less damage would work pretty well for aiding your team in long-range engagements. I opted to lower the damage from 90 to 80, just to make sure Symmetra wouldn't feel too oppressive to fight. Like I said earlier, numbers can always be changed. Next, the passive. The first part of the passive, Photon Shields, will convert 25% of your allies' white HP into shields. Armor and already existing shields will not be accounted for. For most heroes, this means they will have 150 HP and 50 shields when a Symmetra is on their team. A tank with armor, like D.Va for example, will have 240 white HP, 60 shields, and then the remainder of her 300 armor. This passive does not affect the max HP a hero has. I have seen versions of this passive idea floating around for eons at this point. The reason why I used to not support it was due to Sombra's EMP being a hard counter to shield health. Now that EMP is being reworked, having Symmetra convert a portion of allies' HP into shields will not be an indirect buff towards Sombra. The idea with this part of the passive is to give your teammates a little bit of extra self-sustain. Due to this passive, teams with Symmetra will be encouraged to play around cover more often, so they can recharge their shields. The second part of the passive, Heartlight Distribution, is damage being converted to healing for your allies. So, for any damage Symmetra deals, she will heal all her living allies 25% of that damage. Symmetra would not be capable of healing from her own passive. It would only work for her teammates. I was inspired by Rom's Subservience talent in Paladins, where dealing damage heals all your allies regardless of range. At the moment, all of Overwatch's healers are line of sight based. I thought it would be a super cool idea to have healing that ignores line of sight. Of course, this healing won't be for free. Symmetra will have to actively be dealing damage to have constant healing from her passive. The healing numbers from this passive would be the following. The level 1 beam would heal 6.25 health a second. The level 2 beam would heal for 12.5 health a second. The level 3 beam will heal for 25 health a second. A fully charged orb would heal for a burst of 20 health. And Symmetra's damaging turrets will heal allies for 7.5 health a second when dealing damage. In the perfect scenario where Symmetra is lasering down people at level 3 charge while both of her damage turrets are attacking as well, Sim will be passively healing everyone for 40 health a second. This passive will encourage Symmetra players to get into the heat of battle to actively heal her team. I also opted for the addition of this passive because I believe the healing turrets by themselves would not be enough. I wanted a portion of Symmetra's healing to be in her control. This passive allows for that. Originally, I had the passive heal for 30% of the damage you deal, but lowered it to 25% just to be safe. Again, numbers can always be changed. Of course, there will be times when you're not dealing damage, or you just need a little boost. This is where the healing turrets come in. Compared to the damage turrets, these will host a shorter cooldown, faster deploy time, and longer beam range. The reason for this is because I wanted the healing turrets to feel as reliable as possible. Previously, there was an experimental card that gave Symmetra healing turrets, but they healed for 20 health a second, which did not feel very good. With this rework, one turret will heal for 30 health a second, the same as Zenyatta's Harmony Orb. Unlike the Harmony Orb, the turrets will be limited by a short range, their cooldown, and being destroyed by enemies. I also opted for the turrets to heal Symmetra herself. My reason for that being that most of the supports have ways to heal themselves outside of the role passive. If the healing is too potent on Symmetra herself, it can always be toned down for her specifically. The Overwatch devs have gone on record saying that they tried Symmetra with healing turrets and it wouldn't work. I agree with them to an extent. If the turrets were Symmetra's only way to heal, then yeah, they would be unreliable. But when combined with her Heartlight Distribution's passive, Symmetra will easily be able to maintain her whole team. I think healing turrets would be a great addition and further bolster Symmetra's zone control playstyle. Not much to say about the damage turrets. Slightly lower damage for a slightly more potent slow. This in turn changes the turret's function from pure damage to offering a bit of utility with the stronger slow. Fun fact, this version of the turret is actually just a 2.0 version. Granted, this Symmetra will only have 2 damaging turrets as opposed to 2.06. As seen by all my previous concepts, I always boot the teleporter because I believe it's the ball and chain that holds Symmetra back from being balanced properly. To replace the teleporter, I opted for the return of 2.0's Photon Barrier. 1, because it's familiar, and 2, what can I say, I love this ability. I think the Photon Barrier would be amazing in Overwatch 2 due to there being less protection overall. The Photon Barrier was, and still would be great at the following: allowing Sim and her team to safely engage fights, buying time for your tank while their defenses are down, cutting off sniper sightlines, and my personal favorite, blocking key enemy abilities like a Roadhog hook or an Ana anti-nade. Ugh, the rush of a good Photon Barrier block was unlike anything in this game. To talk numbers of the barrier, I decided to lower the barrier's HP from 2.0's 1025 to just 500, since overall barrier health has went down a ton since the time of 2.0. However, to compensate for this, I added the option for Symmetra to hold the ability key to make the barrier move 25% faster. This gives Symmetra the option to speed the barrier up if a teammate desperately needs it. Additionally, Symmetra can toggle the speed on or off at will by holding or not holding the button. I was debating on having the barrier move slower if the button is held down, but I didn't want the function of the barrier to be soaking up damage. I just wanted it to buy yourself and your teammates a few seconds of breathing room. Last up is the ultimate Photon Field. I'm of an unpopular crowd that actually likes Symmetra's current ultimate. That being said, I also liked Symmetra's shield generator from 2.0, but I don't think that would work well in Overwatch 2. Shield generator spots became predictable after a while, and I don't think it's a good idea to have a character leave the team fight to use her ultimate. So I opted to merge the shield generator with the Photon Barrier ultimate to create the Photon Field. 50 shield health is less than the shield generator's 75, but keep in mind, this bonus health is accompanied by a gigantic barrier. When compared to defensive ultimates from other off supports, Photon Field doesn't offer the burstiness of Zenyatta's Transcendence or Lucio's Sound Barrier, but offers a bit more protection and flexibility than that of Brigitte's Rally. One thing to note is that the bonus shield gain would not be limited by range like 2.0 shield generator. For those 12 seconds the ultimate is active, all allies are getting their bonus shields wherever they might be. To conclude, this version of Symmetra would still encompass the jack-of-all-trades playstyle Sim is known for. Symmetra players will have to micromanage everything and constantly be making decisions. When should I spam orbs? Where should I put my damage turrets? Are my healing turrets safe here? Should I laser down this guy? Do I barrier here or hold it for later? I think this version of Symmetra would have wildly different play variations among support players. I can already imagine certain Sim players going aggro all the time to keep the passive going, while other Symmetra players will rely more on the turrets and focus on defense with their Photon Barrier. Either way, this version of Symmetra intends to make her active, fun, and viable. That's my Healer Sim version 3 rework concept. What do you all think of it? Let me know down below. Make sure to join the hashtag Rework Symmetra movement on Twitter. Also, don't forget to clap that like button and laser down that sub button. Snatching the bell is also a great way to keep in the loop. As always, I'm YellowNinja, and peace.